So far, our pull requests that are currently closed already because we have already merged everything into dev are already pushing everything over to our App Center application and continuously integrating. As soon as we merge into these branches, a build gets started. And we have already seen that on Android a couple of times, but also in the previous lecture we see it happen on iOS. So on both we already have a successful build. However, so far things are not going as promised. Sure, this is cool, this is great, continuous integration is currently working, but it's not working in its full potential. Because you may remember I mentioned that continuous integration will help us through the pull request to actually add some more protection to the branches, and so far it's just not happening. Because we see in no place in these pull requests any information about those builds. And I mentioned in the previous lecture, this is going to be a controversial one. Not because of the feature itself that we're going to be implementing, but because at the moment of recording this video, App Center does not allow us to do that on existing applications. So let me explain. If you created your App Center application yourself, as we did, and as I believe most of people would, you cannot connect fully to a GitHub repository. Sure, we see that there is an existing connection, but only from GitHub to App Center, not from App Center to GitHub. And that is something that the team at App Center is actually aware of. In fact, let me go ahead and show you. They have this thread for the iteration plan of July 2019, where I've actually just commented. And there is this issue inside of this App Center repository that is still open from a few months ago, that describes precisely what I'm telling you, that App Center should be able to easily connect existing applications to GitHub. But this just can't happen. So I will show you exactly how we can solve this in a few minutes, but the solution is going to be a bit more complicated than it should. I will of course update this lecture as soon as App Center solve this. In fact, if you navigate over to this issue, the link to this issue is going to be in the resources for this lecture. You can see if this is still open. If this is closed and this lecture is still up, it means that the lecture may be outdated. So by all means, please let me know in the discussions so I update this lecture as soon as possible. But if this is still open, it means that the issue is not yet solved, that we will still have to do what we will do in this lecture to get everything correctly connected. In fact, if you can actually come here to this issue and let the team at App Center know that you indeed want this to be solved quickly, please. So, okay, how is it that we're going to be solving things? Because so far we know that GitHub gives App Center information so it can build, but so far App Center does not give information back to our GitHub repository so it knows if it can merge. And let me just navigate back to my repository. So essentially what we will have to do is create these apps again. I know, this is the thing that I feared was going to be controversial. Now, so far, do not worry, it's going to be quite easy for us to connect new applications back to our Xamarin Forms application, but we will indeed lose some of the information that we have already been sending. Certainly information about these builds and information about the diagnostics and the analytics. So hopefully, so far you're only testing and the information that you have in here is not too important as it is for this quick test. In fact, I have very few information in here. But yeah, we will need to create these applications again. However, we will not create them from App Center because again, there is that issue that we cannot connect fully. What we will do is navigate back to GitHub and navigate over to the marketplace. Remember how your repository is called, by the way, because on the marketplace, if we navigate over to the continuous integration tab, we're going to find App Center. we will have to select App Center in here, so the connection between App Center and our GitHub repository can be established. And you may think that you can just connect it with your current applications, but let's figure out why is it that new applications are going to be created. If I configure the access in here, and by the way, currently I've already set a plan in here, but if you haven't, just click on the button here to set up a plan and set up a free plan. That is going to be more than enough. So you would see something like this. You can just click on set up plan, select the free one, click on install it for free, and click on complete order and begin installation. Of course, you're not going to be charged anything. In here, I do recommend that you install it only on certain repositories. So in here, we're going to be selecting the repository that we want. Now, this is my other GitHub account where App Center wasn't installed, but here you select that repository and click on install. This is if you hadn't installed App Center yet. If you had already installed App Center, as I have in my original GitHub account, you can navigate over to configure access, as I mentioned. And here on the installed GitHub applications, App Center is already listed. You can configure it. And down below, you're going to have to select that repository. So CI, CD, this one, and click on save. In both scenarios, you're going to see these appear. And actually, no, not this. This is an issue with my account. Let me actually switch accounts. This is what you should see. So from here, you can now find that GitHub repository that you selected. So simply select this repository, and indeed it is going to be creating the apps again. So this is the controversial part. I am going to be selecting both iOS and Android. This is a Xamarin application still, and use Xamarin as the platform. And create. I will start by configuring either of the applications, let's say Android. And we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to configure as debug, we're going to use the latest SDK version, build on every push. This is still going to be continuous integration. We'll automatically increment the version with build. And I am going to be enabling this build status badge. I am going to be copying the markdown because I will have to update this and save it. Now, as soon as you do that, down below you will be able to configure the iOS build. So do click on this button, configure the iOS build. Everything is going to be the same. Again, we set the configuration, the SDK version, the build frequency, the continuous integration option, of course, automatically increment the build number, and I am going to be enabling the build status badge. Now, of course, before I do that, I have to navigate over to my GitHub repository and paste the status badge for my Android application. So I will go over to the dev branch, to the README file. I am going to edit it with the new build status badge for Android and paste it. It's probably just this key, the one that changes. And then over here, I am going to be copying the markdown for my iOS application and save. And so this is exactly the same thing that I've already done before. By the way, let me just paste this in here, and I am going to be saving everything in just a second. But for now, we have already set everything just as we did previously in the other applications that we had created here on two new applications. Now, there are a couple of things that we will have to do. Of course, these applications have a different app secret. So that is something that we will have to update over on our repository. And that is going to be very easy, and that is everything that will be required. The other thing is that these applications are by default not created inside of my organizations. And by the way, I had to switch here over to another App Center account that was already connected to my GitHub account. But in here, you probably have the organization that we created, that was App Center, that already contains your two applications. What you will have to do to have these two new applications on that organization is go to each of the applications, go to settings, go to the ellipsis, and transfer the app to organization. And you can select that organization. The same thing for Android and the same thing for iOS. So settings, ellipsis, transfer app, select the organization. And now if I navigate over to my organization, I see these two projects. So now we have everything just as we did before, at least here on App Center. The last thing that I have to do is change the app secrets. So back on GitHub, I am going to first commit these changes for the README file, and I am going to be creating a new branch. This is going to be feature 3. And as soon as I do that, of course, a new pull request is going to be created. Now notice what is going to happen now. As soon as I propose the file change and the new branch is created and the pull request is open as soon as I create the pull request in here, at this point in time, we see something else. Notice that now we see some information that is coming directly from App Center. Now, there is a complete connection both from GitHub over to App Center and from App Center back to GitHub. And right now, all checks are failing. We'll take a look at that in the next lecture. But for now, what we have to do is also update the application secrets that we are using. So I will copy my application secrets, my app secrets from App Center, and I will navigate over to the new branch, the feature 3 branch, and I'm going to search for where these app secrets are being used, which is the apps.saml.cs. I will edit this and I will paste the new app secret. And that is pretty much everything that I will have to change in my application. So that is the iOS one. Let me also paste the Android one. So settings, ellipsis, copy app secrets, and paste it. Now my Xamarin Forms application is entirely ready with the new information for the new apps that we have on App Center. So if we come here, I will be able to update with new app secrets. I will commit the changes in the feature 3 branch, the one that we created previously when we edited the README file. And this automatically is now going to be part of that pull request. There are now 2 commits that conform this pull request. The first one where we updated the badges, and this one where we update the app secrets. So perfect. We now see this connection. We are already receiving information from App Center here into GitHub. Things are failing right now, but we see some things in here that may start to give you an idea about what additional protection to branches mean. And if you navigate over to checks, the checks tab here inside of the pull request, you will now also find some information coming from App Center. Currently, things are failing. We're going to take a look at that in the next lecture. For now, our connection with App Center is finally complete, both from GitHub to App Center, which was already there, but now finally from App Center to GitHub. Don't forget to keep checking that issue that I told you is in the App Center GitHub repository, and let me know as soon as you find out that that issue is already closed, because I should definitely update this lecture so things are easier to connect. For now, we have this connection ready. Sure, we have an additional pair of applications here in App Center, but now we see the benefits of doing this. And these right here, the checks that we are now seeing, are going to be greatly important for our entire continuous integration process.